All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to our build review show. It is Thursday, October 3rd of 2024, and this is the show where I bring users builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things that I think they can do differently in their builds to help improve their post-contest sim ROIs and enter stronger lineups into their contests. So we do this show Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Anytime you want to get signed up for this show, all you got to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and I will add you to the queue for a future show. So with that said, we do have a few users here who have signed up today. Going to be talking some MLB strategy here and reviewing some MLB playoff builds, which should be a ton of fun. So I'm super excited to jump right in. Let's get our first user up on the screen, and that is going to be Interrogator here. So we have Interrogator. We're going to be checking out some MLB Showdown from earlier in the week. So let's get that up here, and we'll get SaberSim up. All right, so let's go back to yesterday. And it looks like we got two here. Let's see how many entries. 190 entries in all three here. So we could just pick one. Let's do, Mets in Milwaukee here. Why not? Or actually 150, but it's all good. It's all the same. So $1 mini max here. I'm not 100% sure what the lobbies look like for these. So I know that the lobbies end up being a little bit smaller. Contest selection is a little bit more limited. At least they're playing, a $1 contest, right? Staying under $3 here. So that's good news. All right. Aside from that, let's jump in here. Let's go check out this contest. Interrogator, 150 lineups. Let's set this equal to 150. Sort by sim ROI. So this is pretty interesting, right? This is actually really interesting. So we have one person with a sim ROI of 25%. Looks like they actually ended up winning the contest. And then we have this huge drop off where we see like 4%, 3%, and then we get into like neutral and negative sim ROIs. So Interrogator is negative 2%, but that is not bad here. Like what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9th on the list here. So number one, this looks like a low edge contest, right? And you always got to be careful with these contests that are smaller, that are 150 max, right? So if you take this contest as 5,350 entries, divide this by 150, it takes 36 users to max this contest out. Now, obviously, not everyone is maxing it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 users maxing this contest. But even then, right, that is, more than 2/3 of the field are maxers, right? So we take 14 times 150. Oops, wrong. Clear. So 2,100 of the 5,350 lineups are maxers, right? So then you go 2,100 divided by 5,350. About 40% of lineups are for maxers. So this is the interesting part, right? We always talk about low stakes contests. And we talk about, hey, the low stakes contests that sharks don't have access to, right? Well, there are still good players putting in good lineups in the low stakes, right? And what you got to think about here, right, is like when you have a contest where it doesn't take that many good players to max it out, a lot of times you end up losing to the rake. And I think that's what's happening here, right? Most of these users who are maxing this, it's not that they're putting in bad lineups. It's that the rake in this contest is 15%. And there's just not that many. There's not enough bad lineups because it's taking so few players to max it out. Like all these players maxing this out are probably submitting good lineups, and there's not that much room left for bad lineups. So that's one thing you got to take into consideration. when doing some contest selection. And you could go back to any past slate and just look at the posts and look at the sim ROIs and be like, hey, is there edge in this contest, right? When we see the quarter jukebox on the NFL main slate and we see, 60 to 100% ROIs, there are probably plenty of bad lineups there that allow for such high sim ROIs. And then you look at something like this and you're like, this is a little bit lower edge contest. There's actually a lot of good lineups here. So aside from studying my own lineups in this case, I would actually be studying this person who won the contest because their sim ROI is so high, right? Like, how do they get to a 25% sim ROI while everyone else is so much lower? And, they got rewarded for that sim ROI. So aside from studying my own lineups, I would definitely be studying what this player in particular did. So let's jump in here. Interrogator. Their average dupes look consistent with the field. Unique lineups is a little bit low compared to people that are like neutral, right? So if you look at like neutral or high sim ROI, we see 56 unique lineups, 56, 86, 101, and they're at 38. So a little bit too much duplication, like slightly, right? Like ever so slightly. And sim average score is like a little low. So if Interrogator could increase uniqueness somewhat, increase sim average score somewhat, they probably go from like negative to positive here. But these are minor changes, right? This isn't like, hey, they need to make drastic changes to their lineup set. This is like, hey, a few small tweaks here will probably be enough to get you into the positive here. So don't feel too bad about this. But that's what I'm seeing so far, right? All right, so let's go into this build one. So 0 minimum salary, right? 1 filter. Show players with value greater than 0.2. A little player pool curation never hurts. No lineup filters. Sorting by ROI. We see a couple different aggregate metrics for geomean, for dupes, for average projection. No min or max exposures. Okay. No stack exposures. No team stack exposures. So pretty hands off here, right? If I were to suggest anything, because I don't think they're very far away here, having aggregate metrics for like dupes and geomean are fine. They give you data. But it doesn't look like anything's happening with that data. I don't see any lineups in the trash. I don't see any lineup filters. I don't see any min or max exposures. You're getting the data point. And maybe you were just like, hey, I was happy with the numbers that I was seeing. That's fine, right? If like you looked at this, you're like, hey, I was just comfortable with it. That's great. But now that we're in the post contest and we actually go back and we look at this in the post contest sims, we see that we probably should be doing something with that data. So either lowering dupes by filtering contest sim dupes, setting some type of geomean filter, setting some type of projection filter, maybe raising minimum salary to get a little bit higher projected lineups. I would be trying to figure out where to tweak those things. And that's where I would be starting, right? I would be starting with the geomean, with the contest sim dupes, with the minimum salary, maybe a projection filter, right? Start to tweak these things lightly and see, hey, where is going to be the right place to tweak so I can increase my sim ROI. So I think you're really, really close. I don't think you're very far away. If you want to do some additional research, go and study that like really strong set of lineups. I think that could be really helpful, but we're not going to do that here today. I got plenty of people to get through. So good stuff, Interrogator. You're not, you might be feeling bad, but you're not playing bad, okay? All right. Next person up is this one came from support. It's going to be Bob here, and we're going to be studying some more MLB Showdown. All right. So, Bob said he played the KC Baltimore Showdown. We're going to go over to the contest tab. So, it looks like he put 5 lineups in the flagship. If this is the strategy you want to roll with, I think that's okay, right? I've talked about hey, I don't like to MME Showdown either because I don't think I can build good lineups. So the only thing I will say from that is that if you are going to go with this strategy, be prepared for high variance, right? You're only entering 5 lineups. The max is 64. There are definitely players entering the max. And so just be aware that you could 100% break this slate. And what I would be doing is honestly, I would be entering all of them. So I don't know if you entered every single one, but I would be entering all of the showdowns if you want to go with this strategy, because the more showdowns you enter, it's only going to help you smooth out the variance, right? I think it's week 4 NFL just passed, and I just binked my first showdown, and I know I've been telling you guys I've been playing all of them, and it was a chop, but hey, my sim ROI finally paid off a little bit there. Even though it was only a 5K to first couple of dupes, it still helps, right? With realizing your ROIs. So enter as many of these as you can if this is the strategy that you're going to go with. All right. So entries greater than or equal to 5. Sort by sim ROI. So looking at this, right? What I notice, average salary pretty consistent. Sim ROI is about 7%. You're actually not that far down, right? If we just count from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You are 10th in sim ROI for users who entered 5 or more lineups, right? So this isn't bad. Now, where can you improve, right? Where can you go from 7 up to these people in the teens, right? See some users in the 10 to 20 range, and then we see one person with an outlier outcome. So what I would be doing is comparing some of these metrics, right? Your average dupes is 2. That looks pretty consistent. You have 1 unique lineup out of 5. I think relatively that's okay. All of your lineups are duped under 5 times. And then your sim average score is about 48. So the sim average score is fine, right? We see other users in the similar range, but the highest lineups we see 51.3, 51.7, 53.1, 50, 51.8, 49.7, 51, right? So it seems like these users are getting to a little bit higher sim average score lineups, which is ultimately just your projected score. So I would be taking that into account, right? Okay, if I can keep my uniqueness and I can get to a little bit higher sim average score lineups, I'll probably benefit. So then we go to your build. So it looks like default settings here, right? One thing I would be doing is that it defaults to 2,000 lineups, mostly due to time. But if you have the time, up this to 5,000, right? Let the builder build 5,000 lineups. That way you just get more options. Min and max salary is fine. No filters, no rules. Looks good. We see an ROI filter. These all look good. No minimax exposures. 1 minimax to Anthony Santander. But I think it's okay to be opinionated here, right? Basically saying, hey, I want Santander in at least 1 lineup, which would match the field. But I don't want him in all of my I don't want any batter in all of my lineups for that matter here, right? So doing a little bit of risk management. Really across the board here, right? So I think that's okay. Hey, I want 1 Bobby Witt, I want 1 Santander, and then I don't want anybody in all 5 lineups. I think that's fine, right? This is all just leverage risk at the end of the day. So that's good. So what I would do here, right, is I think one we said you're a top 10 sim ROIer for people who enter 5 or more. So that means minor changes, right? Minor changes will help. What I would probably do, the only thing I would probably do is come in here and set a projection filter to filter out some of the lowest projected lineups. We talk about filtering out like 10 to 20%. So basically what that looks like, show lineups with projected score greater than X, right? And you come in here and you make up a number. So I'm going to make up 43, right? And I just want to see what effect that has. So that alone, took us to 297 in the trash, which is about 15% of our lineups. So this is perfect, right? And then you notice with this change, right? Watch my average projection. Does it move? Let's put these saved ones back. And then let's resort. Okay, so let's turn that on now. So it looks like it didn't actually have an effect. Probably have a bigger effect if like you had more lineups, but this is just like a guardrail, right? This is going to help you to make sure that you're not playing lineups that are too low projected, right? It's like a floor. So you probably see like a bigger impact if you had like 150 lineups or something like that, but it's still good to have. It's still good to guard against that. But I don't think you're doing anything wrong, right? So stick with the process, make some minor tweaks, see if, maybe you want to come through here, right? Maybe you're like, hey, I want to look at the top 20 lineups. And then maybe I want to look at some of these metrics and I want to compare them, right? So all of these are going to be fairly close in ROI. So like, okay, this one has like 50 projected score. This one has 50. These are all like above 175, 48, 48, 49. Like here's an idea, right? Maybe you take this fourth lineup that's like 47.7, and then you replace it with like lineup 7 that's like 49.5 projection, right? This is still a top 10 lineup, but it's just slightly higher projected where it seems like that ends up mattering in the post-contest sims, right? So you're using ROI, you're taking the top, 20 ROI lineups, and then you're kind of picking 5 where maybe sim optimals is higher, right? Maybe like you have 2 lineups here, right? You have 6 and 7. Lineup 6, 174.8% ROI. Lineup 7, 174.5% ROI. Those lineups are not that different. These lineups are 0.03 or 0.3% different in terms of ROI. They're probably really similar. Now, if the post-contest sims are saying that our sim average score is a little bit low, I'd rather just take lineup 7, and that is the point that I'm trying to make here. So you can, open this up and make a couple, decisions where it's really like a coin flip between which one to play. So that's the way I like to think about it. All right. Other than that, just remember that playing 5 lineups in a 64 max entry contest, playing 1 contest is high variance, and the more of these contests you can play, the better, right? So that's the other important thing. All right. So that is our last MLB Showdown review here, and we're going to jump over to the 4-game main slate from yesterday to review another user who came in through support, and that is going to be Darren. So let's get this up on the screen. Go back to the Wednesday main slate. All right. So I don't know exactly what I'm looking at here because I see one lineup in the 121, right? And this isn't how we would recommend, deciding how to play contests, right? We always recommend start with lowest entry fees, work your way up to $3, balancing your single entries and 3 maxes, And then once you get above $5, definitely start balancing your single entries and 3 maxes. So you could get a lot of lineups down before using $121, as opposed to having all of your entry fees tied to a single lineups outcome. This just raises variance through the roof here. So I got a caution against this contest selection. Now from here, users run a ton of builds, but it looks like the lineups came from build 1. So I would go to build 1. Okay, so a couple things here. So number one, if you look in the contest tab, it looks like they built their lineups well before the slate started, right? So number one, you just want to make sure that your players are starting, right? If you're going to build so early before a slate, and I'm pretty sure this is like Eastern time, so this would probably be like 4 hours before lock. Because it's probably like 4:35 a.m. like their time. I'm assuming they're East Coast. And this would be like 7:35 a.m. my time, which would be like 4 hours prior to lock. But one thing I'm not seeing here, right? I'm not seeing a late swap build. It's super important to late swap your lineups, right? After this first game starts, they only had one player, and their player was a pitcher, right? And this pitcher did pretty good, right? They were well above their projection. Before game 2, they should have late swapped. And the reason for that is because they're going to get to take advantage of, one, how their pitcher has done to that point in the game, how the batters in that game did, and how owned those batters were in the game, right? So if Houston was super chalky, and I'm assuming they were because they have the highest run total here, but I think they only scored 2 runs. Those are a lot of lineups in this contest that are basically dead, right? These lineups do not have a shot of winning if that was the outcome, right? And your pitcher's off to a good start. So what you should do here is one of these builds should be a late swap build. And you'd be like, hey, Hunter Brown has already started. I want to re-optimize my contest based on the outcome from the first game. So I would always, and then I would actually do that at every window here, right? Because the games are so spread out, you're definitely going to want to late swap. So late swapping on these slates is going to be really, really important for re-optimizing as the slate goes on. And then from there, right, your lineups are going to change, but that's okay, right? You're working with more information than you were before. Ownership is a puzzle, and we're putting pieces of the puzzle together. We're putting winning pieces of the lineup, like we're putting pieces of the winning lineup together too. Like, okay, take out all these Astro guys, and I don't know, maybe use some of the Detroit guys. Maybe they're okay. They had like 5 runs, right? Like maybe Detroit Sacks are good. So think about it like that, right? As the slate comes into a clearer picture, you want to be re-optimizing based on your lineups. Who's in your lineups, who is not in your lineups. All right. So from there, let's go back to this build 1. I think they upped minimum salary here, which I think is fine. No filters or rules. No lineup filters. My guess is that they built 20 lineups and probably went through here and picked one. Is what I'm assuming happened. I'm not 100% sure. That's my guess. And I think that's a fine strategy, like we said, like on the last example, 174.8 versus 174.5 or something like that. Like, yeah, they're honestly really close, and you could probably take either one of them. So I think what they're doing to build their lineups is fine. I think, this is just such a high variance strategy with one lineup. I think the biggest takeaway is contest selection, getting more lineups down for the same amount of money, and late swapping, right? Late swapping is going to be absolutely massive. So We didn't see how their lineup graded out. We can go check. Let me check something real quick. I think it was... Okay, this is our guy, Baker. This is actually a good lineup, right? You see 25% sim ROI. So then if we go and we take this off and then we just do sort by sim ROI. So they entered a strong lineup, right? They're right here in view of the screen. This is probably like a top 15% sim ROI lineup. But just the fact that it's one lineup is, you know, if you come in here and look and you look at the sim median profit, this is the outcome that they get 50% of the time in the contest sims. They lose, right? They're going to lose this entry. Their top 1% outcome, you know, is closer to like winning the contest, right? So this is not a bad lineup. This is a expected outcome. And this is why you want to play more lineups on any given day. So those are my thoughts there. Everything looks good here, though, so don't feel too bad about it. But hope you guys enjoyed these MLB breakdowns here. We do have another MLB slate today, followed by Thursday Night Football. So if anybody likes this content and wants me to do their builds, all you got to do, drop your DK username in the Office Hours channel in Discord, and I will add you to the queue for tomorrow's show. But until tomorrow, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.